Hello, it's Stuart, the unrepentant atheist, and we've got here something which I've called the most hopeless call ever into the atheist experience. It's Sean calling in to say, how can we have hope without faith? So, as I normally do, I've missed out the first 15 minutes of the call, and we're coming in now with about 5-6 minutes to go.
Our future? No, Sean.
To support that climate change denial has any evidence behind it. There's no data behind that.
You're sure about that?
And
yeah, so he's been giving an example of where there's absolutely no hope. Climate change. Why he's talking about climate change denial, I've got no idea. Personally, I've also got very little hope with climate change and the way things are going. So I've kind of got to agree with him there, but that doesn't mean that I've got no hope in my life.
You're sure that there's no... wait, did you say that there's no data behind climate change?
No, climate change denial.
Oh, okay.
None. Yeah.
Sean,
Sorry.
Sean, the fact that you can point to examples of things that we shouldn't be optimistic about doesn't mean that there aren't other things that we should be optimistic about.
Well, but you keep using the word hope. And when I think about hope and climate change, I'm like, okay, I hope that the world's not going to, burn us all to pieces. But it might happen.
That we're not going to experience global floods and increasing tornadoes, but and hurricanes and other climate events that, from what I understand from the science, this is probably likely to happen. So how do we have hope?
You don't? Okay.
I mean, I think that...
You can tell that Matt is stressed out. Did you see the way he just bit his nail there? Body language is so powerful, when you understand it. I saw Matt biting his nails there, and he's right, all the frustration, and he's got he has got some anger boiling up because this guy is so exasperating. He's been on for 20 minutes now, really complaining and moaning that there's no hope in the world, and he's bringing up extreme examples.
That's just a human thing. You just do.
I don't know that I have anything more to say. I've already pointing out something that we don't necessarily have warranted hope in doesn't mean that there's not other things we do have hope. If you mean, how do we, if your whole concern is, let's talk about climate change, how can we be hopeful and optimistic in the face of the data? Maybe you can't, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other things that you can't be hopeful in.
Yeah, Matt, earlier on in the conversation, said something which is pretty much on the nail, pretty much on the money. He said that taking each thing that we could have hope for or not have hope for, one at a time, you have hope in an outcome if the evidence warrants it. So, for example, if we take climate change, I'm not terribly hopeful myself at the moment because I've seen the evidence, and I've not really seen much evidence that the international community is doing a great deal. And for that reason, my level of hope is actually quite low. There are other things which I am more hopeful about, but let's not go into those.
All right. So I see what you're saying, and I respect that. But doesn't it get hard?
Let's say
when you look,
it doesn't matter, Sean. Sean, yes, shit gets hard. Life can be hard. If I have stage 4 cancer and I'm lying in an hospital bed and we've tried everything and there's no more treatment, do I have hope that I'm going to continue living much longer? No.
Yeah, sorry to cut in there. I gave one example of something which I've got declining hope, and I can give an example of something else in my own life where I've got hope. I recently started getting pain in my left knee. And at first it was getting worse and it was getting worse, and I was researching. I went to the doctor. I thought I had osteoarthritis, and my level of hope was actually very low for a good outcome. Since then, as a result of research, as a result of doing exercise, as a result of taking certain things, I find that my knee is improving, and on the basis of all the extra knowledge I've got and the way that my Nia's responding, I've now got hope of a good outcome. So there's my example. Matt's just talking about a situation where you've got absolutely no hope with stage 4 cancer.
Oh, I have no reasonable hope. I can wish all day long, but I don't have a reasonable hope that I'm going to continue living. Does that mean that I'm completely devoid of hope? No, because I can have hope that I don't suffer as much pain and the benefits of medication. I can have hope that my family and friends who love me will come and spend time with me at the end of my life and remember me fondly afterwards. There are still things that I can find to have hope in, even in the face of almost certain death.
But one thing that they didn't really discuss, which was quite disappointing, in the whole 20 minutes of the caller came in saying, if we haven't got faith, how can we have hope? In what way would having faith give us hope? That's something which wasn't really explained, unless faith in a God somehow is going to skew the chaotic forces in the world to your favor, and from that you're going to get hope. But what evidence have you got that that is actually the case?
It's if all you're concerned about is how can I have hope in this grand sense that everything's going to turn out all right, you can't and you shouldn't, because everything's not always going to turn out all right. There's a mix of good and bad.
Everything's on a spectrum.
And we finally sorted that out about.
Well, I suppose you could talk about prayer and say, well, if you've got a debilitating illness and you're praying to God, then if you've got strong faith, that faith might give you hope that even if the medications you're taking are not working, that your illness could go into remission. I suppose I can see there how faith could give you that hope, but I suppose that there's not really much evidence that illness, that there's a correlation or there's a causal connection between having faith in the remission of an illness and that illness actually going into remission. There's no real evidence for that works. So I suppose I would have to say that it's false hope. And I would rather have, this sounds desperate, but I would rather have true hopelessness than false hope.
About the good and bad a while ago. There are things that you can be hopeful about, and there's things that you probably can't be. When you can find nothing to be hopeful about, that's a serious concern. That is a concern where I would recommend somebody in a position where they legitimately cannot be hopeful about anything should probably get a hold of the psychotherapist problem and find somebody to counsel them, because that position is not right.
Part of the reason I'm asking this question is because I recently lost a friend to suicide, and I felt like I should have been there. Like I assured him that I would get in touch with him and we would hang out, and I feel like I missed an opportunity.
I'm sorry.
What's that got to do with the connection, the relationship between faith and hope?
It's hard to know what you can do and what you can't, and I'm not a professional therapist, and I don't even know if I could have fixed that.
Okay, well he's gone off rambling on another tangent, so I won't go on with the call. But anyway, I found that quite interesting, because I must admit I have come across some Christians who've said, or who've implied that without God for them, there's no hope in life, and I could never really quite understand that. It's like they're inventing a reason not to have hope. It's really weird, but my position is that there are things which I haven't got much hope about. There are other things which I have got hope about, and that's just life. That's just the way that things are. You can't expect to have hope in good outcomes for everything. It's just not reasonable. That's all for now. I'll be back again with another video. Hope you enjoyed that one. Bye for now.